Welcome to another episode of the Artist Pivot Podcast. I am your host, Ayana Major Bay, and today we have a return guest. My friend James Roberts IV is back for episode 602, meaning season 6, episode 2. When he was on the show before, he was in episode 102 in the first season. How fitting. It's been 4 exciting years since we last talked on the podcast, and oh, how the tables have turned and twirled for both James and me. James has had his fair share of pivots, from musical theater stages to the tranquility of yoga studios and back again to his love for performing. We talk about the balancing act of personal life, navigating the world of creating your own space to express yourself, and the struggle with imposter syndrome that many artists, including ourselves, can relate to. James and I also share some of our cruise ship escapades, the beauty, the politics, and how it's expanded our worldview, shaking up our American sensibilities. Now, through it all, James stands by the poignant realization of the importance of being true to oneself and sharing art that reflects one's genuine experiences. On a side note, the cruise ship portion of this conversation will also be a part of an upcoming episode I am doing about working on cruise ships on my new travel and arts podcast called The World Is Your Stage. Link is in the bio to check that podcast out. Now, to episode 602 featuring James Roberts IV. Enjoy. Come take a listen and let your inner artist play, creating your dreams step by step every day. If you're feeling lost and don't know what to do, always remember that you can pivot to the Artist Pivot. The Artist Pivot. Hello, and welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I am your host, Ayana Major Bay, a multi-hyphenated artist, and I am glad you are here. A couple housekeeping things before we get into the conversation. First, to keep up to date on all the things happening with the podcast, subscribe to the monthly newsletter at ayanabay.com/podcast. Second, to show your support for the show, you can get podcast merchandise at ayanabay.com/merch. And third, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and share this with at least one person. Enjoy the episode. We Audition is the video chat community where actors can audition, self-tape, rehearse, and get expert industry advice. Get instant self-tape readers through video chat, browse through the dedicated actor meditations, podcasts, and books, meet casting directors in the virtual green rooms, and also make money by becoming a reader for other actors. If you join We Audition and use code PIVOT, you will receive a 25% discount on your membership. Link in the show notes. Hello, everybody. Y'all, I am so excited to say that joining me on the podcast is a return guest. Y'all, James was on the first season of the Artist Pivot Podcast, season 1. That was 4 years ago. And I know that James has made some pivots in those 4 years. But y'all, I'm so excited to say, James
Yes.
Roberts, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I'm glad to be back.
You're welcome.
Yes,
You're
yes.
welcome. So, okay, I have 2 initial questions for you. Number 1, how are your hydration levels? Like, have you had enough water today? Number 2, if I texted you right now and said, James, how are you doing? What's going on? How are you feeling? But you could only respond in emojis only, what would you send me?
Okay. First question. I think I'm probably adequately hydrated today.
Oh, good.
I can't
I'm
say
not. But I'm happy for you.
I'm sure I could always do a little bit better in that area, but I think today I'm doing pretty good. As far as those emojis, I feel like my go-to lately has just been that upside down smile.
Okay.
Just like, I'm good, but like, dealing with just enough of the BS to kind of make me feel like, oh, this again. Oh, this is part of it.
Ooh, Ooh, yes.
Hmm.
I literally just felt that in my spirit. Because a couple weeks ago I had the reminder
Uh-huh.
that, oh, right,
Yeah.
this is part of it. I think I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be reminded.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Yeah.
We're still got to work with this. Okay. So I understand that. I'd be like, James, I understand that emoji.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
No need to explain.
That's what it is right now. It's what it is.
No need to explain. Okay, good. So I'm happy one of us is hydrated. Amen to that. I'm going to take a sip of water.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I got mine right
Excuse
here.
me. Oh, great. We're going to hydrate during this episode because
Absolutely.
I know I haven't had enough water today. I've had a coffee and maybe 8 ounces of water. I'm not doing too good today, but it's fine.
It's fine.
But I wanted to bring you back on, James, because number one, I'm a fan of yours. That's number one. I'm a true fan of yours.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I also consider you a friend.
Of course.
And I also love working with you. First and foremost, friend. Yes. And then I'm also a fan of my friend. And I see you out here. I peep you, James. And the last 4 years have been a serious pivot for the industry as a whole, but I know also for you. Yeah. So when you were first on, we were literally in the middle of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Like, I think your episode came out September 2020. I think we recorded it in August.
That we were correct.
In the pandemic.
Yes.
So take me kind of through what you've been doing and pivoting and moving and shaking these last 4 years.
Ooh, how long? We have an hour? How long we got? No.
we have as long as I say we have. So let's open the book.
Okay. September 2020. Okay. I'd say so much has changed. At that point, of course, I was very much on the 100% musical theater grind at that point, leading up to the pandemic. And then, I even had booked a job. I forget about that sometimes. I had a job booked that, pandemic kind of cut short. I was supposed to leave, I think, April 1st of something 2020.
Oh, wow.
That plane did not take off. No, but yeah, very much 100% in the musical theater game of it all. And I had been a little jaded in leading up to that point. But as long as things were I was booking, I was kind of making myself feel okay. But then, of course, that went away. Mm-hmm. And I was cool with it for a long time. But then I just had to... It's a lot of downtime to just kind of think about what you really want. Yeah. But of course, me being me, I have to stay busy. I kind of dove headfirst into my yoga at that point, and kind of making that a business as much as I could, and really kind of pushing that on my own, classes, regular online classes, every week, whether it's on my own or with studios, corporations, community groups, just anywhere I could teach. I'm I got a camera, I got a mat, let's go.
Yeah. Yes, as a lot of people did. A lot of people were like, what can I turn into a business?
Absolutely.
I got to keep busy, which looking back, it's did we have to? We should have just sat down. But that's a whole nother can of worms. We should have rested when the rest of the world was resting. The ocean was ooh, yes. Ooh, yeah. The air cleared up.
All of it. Yeah. And so I kind of dove headfirst into that. And I was like, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm done performing. I'm can I be done performing? I'm okay, what's this going to be? And we said this before we got online today. Once the vaccine came out and I moved out of my parents' house, went down to Atlanta, and thought that Atlanta was just going to be, more yoga. I mean, there is theater and film down here. I was going to try and make that happen. But then, of course, the second I moved down here, the job that I had booked in 2020 happened. And so I'm oh, okay, awesome. So I leave for that. The day I get there, I get basically an offer to do Jersey Boys on the cruise ship. I had, mind you, I hadn't like really done rounds of auditions for them at that point in 3 years. And then I'm like, this offer comes through. I'm like, okay, so that's another 6 months. And then I get the call to do Jersey Boys again on the ship. And so I go and do it again. And then after that, time on the ship doing the Broadway production of Swing and a couple of other production shows. And after that, I kind of needed some time. The last contract I did on the ship, which is the one that had Swing on it, that was my grandfather died while I was on the ship. And so that just put things into perspective. That was always kind of one of my biggest fears of like going on ships for 6 months at a time. Was just like, he's 90 something and and so fortunately we were still docking in the States so I could go to the funeral and all that stuff, but like that was hard. And ship life is difficult to begin with.
Yes.
And you kind of get a whole lot of what you think. Like, I love singing. I love performing. But being on the ship, you get a lot of it. And it may not be singing and performing precisely what you want to sing and perform, even no matter how great it is. It may not be precisely what you want to do.
Yes.
And you're doing it a lot.
Yes.
So I think, especially that last contract just kind of clarified in my head, I hadn't written songs in a good few years. Like 2020, I was kind of on my game, kind of was writing a lot, released a few things, probably should have released more, but got a little discouraged after, I moved home in the pandemic and things. But I started writing a few more songs on the ship and I was like, okay, I think we can, give this a good run, stay on land for 6 months, just see what happens, just see what sticks. So basically I got off the ship July 2023, started recording. In the meantime, still teaching yoga, picked up teaching gymnastics because I was a big gymnastics fan forever. And, was teaching gymnastics for a while. Working with kids is its own challenge.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
She's her own beast. But yeah, I've just been recording a lot, writing a lot, just kind of in that process of figuring out what I want my stuff to sound like, what I want to, and more importantly, what I want to say with the music.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are right now. I do have, of course, finished a workshop for Norwegian Cruise Lines recently, going back on a ship soon. But like, I think in terms of what I want to do, like artistically, I feel like right now the music is kind of the priority, of course, in terms of what I want to generate from me.
For you, exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
The gig and the art are allowed to be different.
Ooh, oh, bars. Ooh. Bars, James.
I think if I could condense that entire, 5-6 minute spiel into a sentence, learning that has been it. Learning that the gig and the art are allowed to be different. It's nice when they coincide.
Yes.
But expecting them to always coincide, I think that's what was messing me up leading up into the pandemic and me being jaded with musical theater not being everything I imagined it in my brain, because I felt like musical theater always had to be my art. But I'm like, sometimes musical theater is just the gig, and that's okay too.
Oh, I got chills in my body. James, you are preaching right now.
Yeah.
Okay? Preaching right now.
That's been my journey.
Ooh. And I think it's other people's, like, it's mine. That's why I'm feeling it. It's mine. And I know there's somebody listening. It's their journey as well. Like, to come to that realization. And it's hard.
Oh, super
it's hard because I think of also what we're taught and what we're fed. I think some people believe it from jump. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they've believed it since they either started in musical theater or graduated, what have you. But for some of us,
Mm-hmm.
I'm raising my hand,
Yes.
the pandemic had to force us to be like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
These two aren't always going to go hand in hand. And it's okay.
Yes.
But we're taught
Mm-hmm.
it should always go hand in hand. But the way this business operates, it's not.
Uh-uh. Uh-uh. And I think that having that expectation that it needs to, that's where it can become problematic
Mm-hmm.
for your
Mm-hmm.
psyche.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly where it becomes problematic, because of having the expectation of like, and we're taking musical theater because we're both musical theater actors, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean any type of art
Of
form,
course.
that it's, yeah, this is it. Like, my art and my gig, yeah, musical theater, this is what I'm doing, and they need to always coincide, and that's just not, it's not true, it's not fulfilling, it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
It's
yeah.
it's asking too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's just asking too much.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is. And I also think that's where a lot of the desperation comes for actors trying to book the next gig. And it's because, well, this is my art and it's my
Mm-hmm.
gig, and I need to work. And like, yes, it's true. Like, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
But also having your own artistic outlet outside of the gig
Yes.
is quintessential.
Yes.
And I know that you're, discovering that now.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that for you.
Yeah, it's been freeing. It's been freeing. It's allowed me to
Mm-hmm.
like not attach so much of like my worth to the gig. And I realized that because like when I was teaching gymnastics,
Yeah.
honestly, there were certain days, and some days it was like it was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But there were certain days I would go through the whole day and it's like, this is nice, like doing something
Mm-hmm.
that I care about, but I don't have my worth and my ego caught up in it,
Yeah.
you know? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that can be the performing gigs, James. It can be.
Yeah.
You just haven't let it be.
Ooh. Ooh. Bars again. Yes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it's about. Like, you can let it be that. And I think that, as artists progress and as we, figure out our own footing, if you will, in
Mm-hmm.
said entertainment industry, no
Yeah.
matter your medium, detaching, like you said, your worth, your value from the jobs you book has to come at some point,
Yes.
because you will not survive. This industry is so volatile that if you attach yourself to it, you're going to be volatile at
Mm-hmm.
all times.
Mm-hmm.
And my nervous system can't take that.
At all.
That's not for me. That's not for me no more. I can't do that.
No, and I think maybe I don't want to say it was fun earlier, but like part of like again, yeah, you mentioned like kind of the idea that we're fed. Um, I think, for me specifically, I was fed that idea of the constant hustle and push and grind, especially being in New York and like, you know, you you want to live the life that you see in Fame and Chorus Line and all these, oh God, not the narratives, but like
The vision that they kind of, or like,
yes,
yes, like,
yes.
oh, that's
That
what it's supposed to
mhm,
look like.
mhm. The word is gonna come to me in like 5 minutes, but
It's okay.
yes,
Blurt it
yes.
out. Just blurt it out when you get it. You're like, I thought
Mhm.
of the word.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. But that's it. That's what we're fed, and it's really unhealthy. Like, discovering that it's really, really unhealthy, and like,
Mhm,
I really used to operate in that space.
mhm.
And again, not faulting my past
No,
self for that, because
no,
that's what I
no.
knew.
That's what it was.
But I just now I know better, And how do I approach this career being a whole person
Mm-hmm.
and enjoying my life
Mm-hmm.
and balancing the demands and sometimes just the silliness they ask of us,
Yes.
like putting 7 things on tape.
You,
So y'all, James and I had a whole conversation about a self-tape I had to do recently before this, and I'm just not gonna go into it. But these what? However,
uh-huh.
it's, trying to figure out how you want to operate in this business
Mm-hmm.
and giving yourself permission to do that, because not everybody's career looks the same. And I think it's really accepting that. It's about acceptance and going, my career is going to look like my career.
Absolutely.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. It's been a lot of just releasing expectations about, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, what the um, art and the gig coinciding, but also about expectations of what I expected things to look like at a certain age. That's been part
Ooh.
of it too.
Ooh.
Because, we essentially lost a good 2.5, 3 years,
Yeah.
and so even if like things could possibly have shaped up at that and aligned with what was in my head,
Mm-hmm.
3 of those years are gone,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's that's another thing that's kind of shaken me out of
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah. I understand that one too. Ugh.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's mm, it is being an artist is already an interesting life.
Yes.
And like we both agreed, it's like we love our lives.
Hmm.
We do. But how do we then deal with being in an industry that is volatile,
Yes.
but still loving on ourselves as human beings and not putting our worth in either booking or not booking something? Because I am a firm believer of what's meant for you is meant for
Of
you.
course.
But then how do you stay the course so that you can get to what is meant for you?
Yeah. For me, it's just been about having those other things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I just want to throw the towel in, lean into something else.
Yeah.
I
Ooh.
think there were huge parts of, these past 4 years where I was cold turkey, kind of done with performing, with
Mm.
musical theater. For a second, I thought it wasn't coming back. And then there was a
Yeah.
second where it was just like, even if it is back, do I want to do it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, like I said, as those gigs started happening again and I started getting into it, and again, I think it was reconnecting with people again and like seeing, you
Yeah.
know, the community
Yeah.
and wanting to be around that was like so much of what I got from this thing initially and probably why I latched onto it.
Yeah.
That was just again such a fulfilling part of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like I don't know that I'm 100% done with that aspect of it either. So yeah.
Fair.
Hmm.
Fair. And you don't have to be.
I don't.
Like I also think we have the permission to like change our minds.
Absolutely.
Like we have the permission to change our minds at the drop of a dime
Hmm.
or drop of a hat, whatever the saying is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's both of those. I don't know. But we have the permission to change our minds. So I also think that's part of it as well.
Hmm.
Of like not judging ourselves, saying I was going to do this, but now I've decided to do this, or now I'm going to go back to that. It's okay. Well, whatever you feel like.
It's all okay. There is this concept in the yoga space.
Hmm.
I don't want to sound like I'm appropriating, but it's called Samshaya.
Hmm.
And my understanding of it, again, I'm not like the most ascended being on the planet, but my
Hmm.
understanding of the concept is
Yeah.
that it's when you are caught between two options
Mm-hmm.
that are both equally viable. It's
Mm.
like that paralysis by analysis thing.
Yep.
And I I resonated with that so much. I think that I wrote it down, like pasted it on my wall. It's been on my wall for a good 2 years at this point. And
Yeah.
like I've just kind of had to commit to just taking action. Pick one
Mm-hmm.
and go.
Mm-hmm.
They're both viable, they're both wonderful. And in choosing, if it's not right, you're going to be pulled back to something else,
Ooh, yes.
you know? And if it's right, great.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, I resonate with that too, because there are definitely times I have this like analysis paralysis. Like, well, which do I do this? Do I do that? Do I this? Do the? And you're
Hmm.
right. Just pick one
Hmm.
and go with it.
Hmm.
And if it's the wrong, I put that in quotation marks, air quotes, the wrong choice,
Hmm.
then you'll be led back to the other one.
Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. And I'm kind of pulling all these little anecdotes that I've picked up that have kind of stuck with me. There's this Instagrammer called Crystal the Oracle.
Okay.
And she said this thing, and I've seen the reel pop up a couple times,
Yeah.
but every choice is not a decision. And like breaking that down, her thing that stuck with me was that we make choices, we have the experience based on the choice,
Uh-huh.
and it's okay to make a decision based on that experience, not just commit, oh, I made this choice, I have to stay with it and tough it
Ah,
through because I made that choice. It's like, no, you can change your mind. You made the choice, you have
right.
the experience,
Right.
you got what came from that choice. Then you can decide to continue or you can decide to change course. It's okay. It's
Oh,
what you're supposed to do.
yeah. 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 Mm.
Yeah. And like those are two of the things because, like I said, I can get in my head. I can overanalyze. I can you kind of be scared into just inaction.
Yes. Yes.
And because I'm learning about myself that I I don't want to say I'm better when I'm doing, but like
Mhm.
once I commit to something and I actually
Mhm.
start doing it, I'm pretty good at finding a way to get it done well enough.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I just have to commit.
Mhm.
And that has been a huge part of these last few years.
Got it. Got
Hmm.
it. Got it. So I would ask you when it comes to now your music and like committing to that and putting
Yes.
that out into the world. Y'all,
Uh-huh.
I'm so proud of my friend. He got his music out. There are visuals. I peeped them visuals on
Oh,
Instagram
thank
today.
you. Thank
I'm gonna
you.
put a little link in the show
Please
notes.
do.
I seen them visuals, friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how are you in that process? First of all, in writing
Hmm.
and then releasing. And I know, we had a little back and forth on Instagram about like also imposter syndrome
Absolutely.
and us like getting in our own way. So break it down for me, like your process of like just writing the song first and like recording, and then that moment when you hit publish and you go, oh my gosh, I have a song in the world. Oh my gosh, I just put out visuals. Oh my God, it's there. It's there. I can't run it back.
Oh Jesus, and I want to so many times. So many times I
Right.
want to run it back, but I can't.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
released. It's into the
It's
world.
in the world. It's in the world.
Oh yeah. It in terms of writing, it kind of varies.
Hmm.
Sometimes I will literally wake up and there is a tune in my head or there are three words in my head, and I just grab my phone in the groggiest, sleepiest voice, hit my voice notes and just hum a tune, say a
Hmm.
few words. Hopefully it makes sense in an hour.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's like, what? Is that even a note? Like, what is but sometimes it does.
Mhm.
And I just from there will play around on my computer as much as or I'll figure out the chords either on my computer or on
Uh,
my guitar.
okay.
Um, And so I'll probably figure out chords from there, get a melody going, and hopefully something takes shape lyrically after
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Um, and that's been a great process. I've had to occasionally be a bit more methodical about that as well, because having the
Mhm.
inspiration is great,
Yeah.
but sometimes you just have to get in front of the blank page and like
Mhm.
figure stuff out as well. And I think the last 6 months, when I've really kind of been hammering down and like very scheduled and regimented about that,
Yeah.
has helped me realize that I can, when I sit down, um, get something,
Yeah.
or at
Yeah.
least an idea of something that I can fix later,
Mhm.
and not just always have this divine inspirational moment. Because like those are wonderful. I love waking up and it's just like, well, I don't know what's going to come for this, but I'm just going to put it in my phone and go with it
Mhm.
later. I love that, but like you
Mhm.
can't rely on that all the time.
Right. Right.
So again,
Mhm.
and I think I just learned the value of committing to the process kind of every day.
Mhm.
Again, I'm gonna pull a quote from somewhere. Oh god, I think this is actually from a fitness YouTuber. I'm just keep pulling stuff today. The quote is oh good lord. Discipline is oh good lord. Lord. Oh my god, I'm not even gonna say it right. Discipline is not owned, it is rented, and rent is due every day.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh.
So I've just, and of course he's applying it in the fitness
Mhm.
context of like, going to the gym every day.
Jim, right.
Yeah. But I've like, but part of that is also with the music, I've kind of seen the fruits of
Mhm.
a little bit every day. Because especially
Mm.
when I was, teaching gymnastics, teaching yoga, I would have like, I got this hour right here,
Yeah.
and I have to make as much happen in this hour as I can.
Mhm. Mhm.
Whether
Mhm.
that's,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
getting a reverb right on a vocal, or if that's recording as many vocal lines as I possibly can, or if it's,
Mhm.
editing down, because like I'm the kind of person, I love me a layer, I
Yeah.
love my vocal layering. It's been a thing, but then again, I love it. I love the way it sounds, but then you have to edit each of those things.
You do.
You do. That is a process, and it's like you feel so good, and it's like, yeah, but you have like 60, 70 vocal lines to edit. I'm just like, it sounds pretty in the end, but like
But getting there.
I'm sitting in front of that computer getting it right for each of those lines. And of course I could, that was my other thing. Like when I started recording, I'm gonna backtrack
Mhm.
a little bit. I think I started recording in like the process of um getting my stuff down and in
Mhm.
recording, because I thought like, oh, I'll just record like demo quality stuff, and like hopefully some producers gonna like still thinking I'm gonna be discovered or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like some producers gonna find it and I'll have someone to help me. And I'm like, James,
Mhm.
the producer is you.
That part. That part.
James, the producer is you. Cause it's
Uh-huh.
just like who the producer that I can afford is me. That may be more accurate.
There you go. There you go.
you
There it
know,
is.
because like who's gonna put in the hours it takes
Mm.
to
Mm.
really, like I said, edit 60, 70 of these
Mhm.
lines and making sure they come together nicely in the way that I want,
Mhm. Mhm.
without a substantial amount of money. Who's going to do that?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
Right.
I had to go to YouTube University a little bit there, and figure that out. Now, once everything's come together and I feel like I got it down, I listen to it probably more than I should. I listen to it like on a billion different speakers. I listen to it on a
Mhm.
billion different settings just to make sure it sounds okay. And then, like, in terms of getting it out, once I feel it's okay, I just have to surrender. I
Mhm.
have to release.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
have to let it go. And then you have to switch gears to like a promotional mindset. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of where I am right now. And that has been a thing, because it's constantly changing how we consume music
Mhm.
nowadays. Um, the TikTok and shorts that of it all has like made it. I love it, but I've had to change. I've had to adapt. Like I was
Yeah.
trying to shoot full music videos 4 years ago, and like that's not always a thing. It's probably more useful to shoot 4 or 5 1 minute little shorts. You'll
Yeah.
get more mileage out of that than like one entire high concept music video.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that whole thing. I was, oh good lord. I looked at, and even the length of the songs. I looked
Mhm.
at my first single. That's first single, like from 2018, 4 minutes and 34 seconds long. I was
Is
like,
is that bad?
it's just long for nowadays, you know?
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, oh, okay. I thought you were going to say like 10 minutes.
No, 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 no. Like
Yeah.
for like pop songs nowadays,
Mhm.
if you get hit 3 minutes, like you're kind of doing something.
Oh,
It feels
okay.
like it.
Okay, okay, okay.
Because like again, once on Spotify,
Mhm.
once you hit 30 seconds, that's a play.
Oh, wow.
So songs don't need to be super long.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Like and like you may get a verse, couple
Yeah.
runs at the chorus, and that's it.
Huh.
You know? And
Yeah.
like I me being me and like a little bit older, and you know what music I was raised on, I still like a bridge.
Let me, because that's why I was like, you were like 4 minutes. I'm like, yeah, isn't that a song? But now that you're saying that, oh yeah, I'm thinking about,
Yeah.
oh yeah, what we
Hmm.
grew up on, and they got about 3 verses. There's a bridge.
Hmm.
There's
Some
something else at the end.
like some
You go
vocal
a
improv
coda. You go
in,
back
you
right,
know.
right.
you
Yes.
know, that's kind of what we came up with, at least,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I adapting a little bit in that department, just understanding like, okay, do I want to make this song like under 3 minutes? Like, is that okay? I'm like, yes, it is. If you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you say what you got to say in that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and just trusting my artistic impulses there.
Yeah.
I've just trying to, and in terms of what I'm trying to say with the music, I've just really been focused on making the kind of music I would have wanted to hear. Let's make it,
Mm.
we sort of get more personal here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
as growing up, coming of age in the late 90s, early aughts, you know, not a ton of representation
Mm-hmm.
for queer folks, Black folks,
Mm-hmm.
especially male-bodied Black folks in
Mm-hmm.
like the pop space, R&B space. Not a ton of it.
Yeah.
And even if it was there, I don't know that the range of songs was reflected of like the full experience of the songs didn't reflect the full range of experiences that we have like everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
where were the, flirty fun songs? Um, where were the of it all? There was, it's not always sad, it's not always
Mm-hmm.
depressing, it's not
Mm-hmm.
always heavy. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's
Yeah.
flirty, sometimes it's
Yeah.
sexual. There's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I don't want to shy away from those things
Yeah.
in my music.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of my music up till now has felt, some of it has been flirty. I think one single was kind of fun and flirty, but a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it has been on the more inspirational, introspective side.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. It's probably not going away,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
want to incorporate the other stuff too. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt in certain ways not trapped by it, but like that inspirational, introspective thing was, I don't, maybe what was expected of me.
Ooh. Okay. Uh-huh.
But as like a higher ascended sort of, concept, but like, no, I
Mm-hmm.
live life every day. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else, I go through the same experiences as everybody else. I'm
Mm-hmm.
allowed to write about those and my takes on those too. You
Right.
know, you
Right.
know, I get messed around with, by people, and I feel a way about it, and I can write about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All the
Mhm.
various sides of you, because you're a human
Absolutely,
being.
absolutely,
All the various sides.
and I think that's what I would like to say about the upcoming stuff as well. Just
Okay.
like it's going to be um, embodying a lot of those colors.
Yeah.
That's what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on, embodying all of the colors. Come on, James.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that this is like, yeah, you're like really leaning into your own artistry
Yeah.
and going, okay, well, I'm the singer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the writer. I'm the
Yes.
singer and I'm the producer.
Mm-hmm.
And one day,
Mm-hmm.
I'm praying, manifesting, calling it in for you. All you got to do is walk into the studio. Everybody else is there. You got your
Absolutely.
writing team. You got your producer. You just got to walk
Mm-hmm.
into the booth and be like, let me lay down these vocals.
I would love for that to be a thing. Absolutely. But I've also, part of me,
Hmm.
maybe it's the control freak. I don't know. One of my friends when I was 14 called me control freak because I tried to plan the day at Six Flags and he didn't like it. But it's like we gotta go to this roller coaster first. And
Hmm.
if we don't,
Hmm.
the day is completely ruined. No.
I'm triggered. I'm triggered because I can relate. I'm triggered because I am that person.
But I think a bit of that control freak in me is
Hmm.
kind of comforted by the fact that I can do all of this by
Mm.
myself.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I'm sure at some
Fair.
point I will need to relinquish some control and we will cross that bridge when we get there. We'll breathe and we'll work through it.
Ooh, that. Hmm.
But right now, I can do it all by
Yeah.
myself and get a good enough vision of what I want out there.
Yeah.
It may not be perfect, it may not be super elevated, but it will be close enough to what I have in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
It's a little harder because I when I tell you I spent money on film equipment during the pandemic, so much, and of course I use it. I use it
Yeah.
for the videos. Like, it's getting used, but like it's so much harder to like get like if you have an idea for us, even just a teeny scene,
Hmm.
you're gonna have to collaborate
Yeah.
and coordinate schedules and like it's so difficult. At least I have found it very difficult to like get like film concepts out
Mm-hmm.
from my head to fruition in somewhat intact
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
just me and not having
Absolutely.
to hire out and outsource too
Right.
much.
Right.
Music has allowed me to do that. And of course, it's kind of like was my first passion
Mm-hmm.
too. So,
Mm.
even before musical theater, like I remember like really wanting to be in my head a pop star. And
Yes.
of course
Uh-huh.
the way I think about that has changed as I've gotten older, but like me and like two of my friends, my childhood friends, like we were like thinking about like, oh, we're going to start a group. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like planning like what our look was going to be and like all of that stuff. Like I was
The
thinking about that.
90s.
Yes, yes. Like
It's the
of course it was
90s.
coordinated but slightly different. Oh God. I remember it. It was like basketball jerseys. It was a thing.
Yes.
um but it, it oh God, well, I lost my train of thought. It was the first thing. It was the first thing I was
Mm-hmm.
passionate about. And of course, the way I think about it now is a little bit different. It's less about just being a star for being a star's sake. It's about, at
Mm-hmm.
this point, making sure I say what I want to say and get it out there.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that's the most important thing. I'm really trying to not leave any more stones unturned on this artistic journey because
Mm.
I'm not old, but I'm getting older, and like it hits me every once in a while when I see younger folks, especially younger folks in our industry, because it
Mm-hmm.
happens, they pass.
Yeah.
And maybe I
Yeah.
know them from like one or two films. I'm just like in my head, I'm like, they got that out there and it really seemed to resonate with who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, do I have that?
Mm.
And am I willing to just wait around for that?
Yeah.
Or can I do something about that in the meantime?
Right.
And maybe that even helps people see who I am so that that project can come.
Yeah.
So it's been a
Yeah.
lot of just kind of stepping out and being willing to look awkward, cringe, and let people see the process a little bit of things not being perfect.
Mm.
Because I cannot, it's not realistic for me to expect my stuff to sound like Beyonce. Like,
Not at all.
who can? A, who
Right.
can? A, who can? But
Yes.
B, it's just like, if that's the standard, James, you're never going to get anything done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you think it has to be like that to be worthy of just human consumption, like, you're never going to get anything done.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And I think that you're hitting the nail on the head with, I think, a lot of folks. It's that of like viewing someone and going, well, if it doesn't look like that, I can't put it out. And you kind of feel like, in essence, an imposter.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, well, I can't. Well, if I can't put it, and it's like, no, you can. And I love what you said about like, it doesn't have to look like that to be ready for human consumption.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be willing to put it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that has been a huge thing, just constantly kind of reminding myself that
Mm-hmm.
it's past your ear, it's past your test. You kind of sift it through your different layers and levels of whatever your creative process and like editing and filtering process is.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you got to let it go
Yeah.
and you have to put it out there. Because,
Yeah.
and I also, oh, good Lord, I just kind of reminded of this journal. Oh, God. There's this journal entry I wrote while I was on the ship,
Mm-hmm.
and I opened it up like a few weeks ago at this point, and I was just like, that page has just stayed open for weeks at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and I wrote down that there are people who need to see people like me moving in their truth and kind of in the
Mm-hmm.
fullness of their truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wrote right after that, there are people who need to see me specifically
Hmm.
moving in my truth and in the fullness of my truth. And at a certain point,
Yeah.
it's not about you,
Mm.
and it's about this being in service of other people.
Yeah.
Because, you know, to a certain extent, I don't want to say I'm old and set in my ways, but like, you know, a lot of these songs are for people who might be going through what I was going through or want to,
Mm.
kind of revel in the joy of maybe what I was feeling in my, earlier days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not that they're all done, but.
They're not done. Listen, you're just wise. You're just wiser,
Yes,
James.
yes,
We're getting wiser. We're
yes.
going, I'm not going
Mhm.
to do that
Yes.
again.
I can revel in the fact that it was entertaining at the time.
That part, that part.
You know?
Yeah.
But that I feel like that's who the music is for. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like I said, it almost like holding on to it is essentially becomes selfish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Because who is it for? Is it for me? Is it just for me?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 100% just 100% just for me and
Mm-hmm.
my fulfillment so I can feel good about, oh, look at what I made? I'm like, that's part of it. I'm not going to lie and say maybe that is part of it, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's also meant to be shared and to go out there.
Right.
And that is a lot of times the hard part.
Yeah. That is the hard part.
Hmm.
That's the hard part of letting
Hmm.
other people see it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
go, oh, and connect to, but it's also about connection. It's like, oh, yeah, I kind of feel that same way too. Like
Hmm.
listening to those lyrics of like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
that person sees me.
Hmm.
But it's also you seeing yourself
Yes.
and then putting it out there and someone going, yeah, they see me or they hear me, they understand me. Oh, I have a similar experience to that. I'm not alone.
Hmm.
And I unfortunately think it's getting worse, especially with social media and the way the kids are growing up these days.
Hmm.
Of like, no, y'all, there are people there who who know what you're going through. We've
Absolutely.
done this already. Now we got some years on you.
Just
Not
a few.
saying we're not, just a few years on you. Just a few. But yeah, but that and like and sitting in that and reveling in that and like James, I'm so proud of you. Like
Thank you.
for putting out your music
Thank you.
and living fully in your artistry. And I know you're still like letting it unfold.
Absolutely.
But what you have put out, like I'm so proud of you for
Thank you.
continuing to pivot
Of course.
and you know making your artistry number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a question for you. So let me
Of
know if you're on
course.
board with this.
Yeah.
Because I just launched my travel podcast. And I was like, oh, I remember James works on cruise ships. So if you have the time, let's just pivot for
Yes.
1 second
Of
into
course.
talking about cruise ships. And so y'all, I'll put this whole episode on the Artist Pivot feed, but I'm going to take this little portion and put it on the World is Your Stage podcast.
All right.
Which is about travel, the exploration of travel. What do I call it? Oh, the exploration of the intersection between travel and the performing arts. Yeah.
That's cool.
So let's talk about it. So yeah,
Okay.
we're making a pivot right now. So those listening on the Artist Pivot podcast, you've heard that portion. Now we're going to get into the travel portion.
All right.
So this I'll post on the World is Your Stage. So James, give me the rundown of working on cruise ships. So I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier. But working on cruise, number one, just traveling for work,
Yes.
like performing is its own monster.
Yes.
But cruise ships in particular have its own sea legs, pun intended.
Yes.
So give me your pros and cons of working on a cruise ship.
Absolutely. I'll start with the pros. The pros are that you are going to places a lot of times that you would have never thought to go to. You might never, that feel kind of once in a lifetime a lot of times. And that is amazing. And experiencing those places and like places I had, like my last one was unreal. Like for 9 straight days, it was, 3 days in Spain. It was south of France, Rome and Florence and Venice, and just like it's amazing to get to see these places. Leaning Tower of Pisa, just like all of these wonderful things, and they can happen, and you're just you don't have to take a flight. You just kind of get off the boat, and you're just kind of there, and you just can walk off.
Well, that's one of the best parts. Oh, I'm in Italy today?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, tomorrow I'm in France? Oh,
Yes.
great.
Yeah. Like that's awesome. And like you get acquainted with just different, seeing how vast and special each place is, from the people to the landscapes and the geography. It's stunning. It's humbling. It's just eye-opening. It really is. That's a huge pro. The community that you can build because you're around a lot of the same people is huge as well. There's so many people that I love and adore that I wish I saw more often. But yeah, I met them on ships. Ships. As far as the cons are concerned, maybe it is also the fact that you're also around the same people. Because if not every cast is 100%, loving, amazing family, like every single person. Sometimes you're around someone, it's like, oh, I'm going to be around you for 6 months.
You're like, oh boy, buckle in, kids, buckle in.
Yeah. and even sometimes it's not even the cast because like, depending on management, like your experience as an employee on the ship can change based on who is in management because they have so much power. Because even like as much as like we as performers on the ship have a lot of privileges,
yes,
but
we do.
even in our contracts, there's always that little, depending on
little asterisks
per management approval or what per managerial needs or like these things they can be pull back,
Mm-hmm.
and that can impact the way you experience the cruise, right? And your job.
Yeah.
That can be a negative thing. It's also sometimes when you are only going to a place once and it's a
Mm-hmm.
real place that you really, really like Barcelona, I would have killed for more days in Barcelona. We only went there
Yeah.
once, the whole contract.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I was just like, I made the most of that one day,
Yeah.
but I only had one day,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
that's another thing because like you will have these amazing places that you go to, but you may have a good 6-7 hours tops
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and you got to
Mm-hmm.
squeeze everything in. And I can do that sometimes, but sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I want to take my time, you know?
Right. Right. Sometimes I just wanna get off the ship. Let me grab
Yeah,
a coffee
yeah,
and let's see what's out
yeah. I
here.
don't want to have to do every single museum and every single site and every single. But
Mm-hmm.
some
Mm-hmm.
when you only have one day, sometimes there is that pressure to do that. And that kind of can put a damper on that aspect of the travel,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which I really love. Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the travel and the performing together
Mhm.
that are like a perfect marriage.
Yeah.
But then, as you said before, it's then the management because it's like
Mhm.
we're still at work.
We're still at work.
So it's very different from being a cruise ship passenger.
Mhm.
Like when I try to explain it to folks, I'm like, imagine going to your office and not being able to leave. Or you could only leave for 5 hours, but then you have to come back to the office. Your
Mhm.
office is your office and your home
Mhm.
and your social life and
Mhm.
like it's your everything.
Mhm.
Like cruise ships are literal floating cities.
Yes.
So like it's just and I'm like you try to explain it to people, James, but
Mhm.
you have to actually experience
You
it.
do. You do. And sometimes there can the cultural differences are wonderful. Sometimes it feels like a divide. And
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like I I can't like I think on two of my contracts I was the only for at least most of the contract, I was the
Mhm.
only black male American on the ship. I think I might be the only black
What?
American on the ship.
Oh wow.
And so it's just even like I don't want to certain things will come up and I'm like, did I imagine
Mm.
this happening? Like,
Mhm.
did they say that to me? I'm like, and
Mm.
there's no one to kind of vent to.
Yeah.
That can be a thing, and it can be a little isolating
Yeah.
um, at times. And that's just one of those things. Like you are kind of a lot of times in the minority or in the minority of the minority,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And honestly, and let's be as a performer, no one wants to hear you complain. No one
No,
wants to hear you complain as a performer on a ship.
they don't. And that's unfortunate. It's like I'm always the person who's like, "But I signed my contract just like you signed your contract."
Hmm.
And I knew coming onto the ship that I'm a performer,
Hmm.
period. So
Yes,
I'm sorry that you're not a performer, but I'm also not sorry that you're not a performer. And the fact is like, "Oh, well, you guys get all these privileges." Yeah, I wouldn't have signed the contract if I didn't get all these privileges.
correct, correct.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and a lot of times what we have to say is legit. It is
Yeah.
legit. It's completely legit. But everyone else wants to like put that brand of entitled and
Mhm.
on us. And just like, no, we're just asking for what was agreed upon.
Yes.
And if it's not there, we need a legit reason why.
Yes.
And if you can't
Yes.
give us a legit reason why, we might press you and until we
Mhm.
get one.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Not sorry. Please, my contract says.
Mhm, 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 mhm.
But no, it's unique. It is especially like with management.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that my casts, fortunately, were my very first cast was all American except for one person. One
Oh,
was from South Africa.
yeah.
Shout out to my friend Ofense. He's actually who I visited when I went to South Africa years ago.
Come on.
Everybody else was American.
Mm-hmm.
But then on my second ship, it was a mixture of American and British.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people had done ships before, some hadn't. But it was, I could luckily vet
Mm-hmm.
James to people who, there's another American women on this,
Yes.
Black American women on the ship that I
Yes.
could talk to. So I
Yeah.
could only imagine you being the only Black male American. Because y'all, when I tell you every country is represented on ships, every country is represented
Mm-hmm.
on ships.
Mm-hmm.
So right, to be the only one
Yeah.
sometimes, it's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because also my management, I will say I don't think I've ever had any Americans, meaning the captain or the first officer or the
Mm-hmm.
even the HR staff,
Yeah.
like they're not American.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just I do think you know what I will say? I will say working on ships has helped me check my American entitlement. Because it'll
Mm-hmm.
humble you.
Real
Ships
quick.
will humble you real
Real
quick.
quick.
Remember, you're at sea. This is maritime law. You are not
Mm-hmm.
in America.
Yes.
And you're like,
Yes.
oh.
Mm-hmm. And it's even like little things that come up like culturally, like someone tried to tell me that my medical paperwork was invalid because of the way we write dates in the States. I was just like, no, that's the month first. We do that in the States.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm lit. And they're like, no, this is invalid. I'm like, no, friend. In the States, we write the month first. It's
Right.
not expired. Check
Right.
with whoever you got to check with, but it's not. And you have to go back and forth and be patient. And I want to scream. I want to say, like, look, I like,
Uh-huh.
but we're weird in that way. That's what we do. Sorry.
Yes. Right.
That sort of
Right.
thing. And those
That
things
sort of
come
thing.
up all the time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. They do. They do. It's an interesting life, y'all. It's
Hmm.
an interesting life. I am one who's like, try it out, especially if you are a performer and
Hmm.
you get cast in a show. This will be my last question to you, James. But
Hmm.
if you get cast in a show, I would say try it. Try it out and see if you like it. Because not everybody likes it.
Yeah.
Some people hate it. Some people love it. They've made careers out of doing. Listen, it's your preference. It's your preference because you have to deal with a lot of politics. But you
Hmm.
do also get to perform and then you get to travel. Like
Yes.
that was my biggest. Like I get to have brunch in Barcelona every Saturday. Yeah. Sign me up.
Yes.
But I will say my question to you, I guess, James, is in doing the shows,
Hmm.
they're not always like book musicals.
Correct.
And so, for instance, I loved my first show. My second ship, I loved the first show, but not the production show.
Hmm.
So I didn't know until I got to rehearsal that I was like, oh, I'm doing two shows.
Oh,
Oh, we have the musical and the production show. Didn't like the
yes.
production show.
Uh-huh.
So how do you deal with not necessarily loving what you're performing, but you're like, you know what? I'm getting this good cruise ship money and I get to
Hmm.
travel on somebody else's dime because I'm fitting to have
Hmm.
some pasta in Italy tomorrow when we dock.
You brought back some things with that pasta. Oh my God. But but yeah, honestly, it becomes about yes, thinking about that check. That is a huge
Mhm.
part of it. But
Mhm.
also people are on a ship to have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to tie your entire existence to, singing the Tina Turner medley.
That part.
People just want to have fun.
Yeah.
And you can have fun doing it or try to find a way to, you
Yeah.
know, because, unfortunately, yeah, depending on who you are, unfortunately, it's part of it. Like
Mhm.
my last
Mhm.
ship, there was one, Broadway production. I had to do, two, three other production shows.
Mm.
I didn't, some I like more than others,
Yeah.
but, in some aspects I like more than others. At a certain point, it's like these people are here. They want
Mhm.
to have a good time. Just try to enjoy yourself as much as possible. You don't have to, again, think, oh my God, I trained for all of these years to be in sequence and singing a Tina Turner. Like, it's friend. Just
Relax.
relax a little bit. Just kind of calm down a little bit
Collect
and
your check.
collect your check. And like, the people they just want to be entertained a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and again, that's for those who may not be listening to the artist pivot portion of this,
Mm-hmm.
it's another aspect of detaching yourself from the expectation or the need that every single thing you perform needs to be the highest level of artistic expression ever conceived by man.
That part.
Sometimes you just sing the song on the stage,
Yeah. Yeah.
with like
Yeah.
in sequence and like 15 dancers behind you doing crazy tricks. Sometimes that's what it is.
Oh, right. Sometimes that's what it is.
And that's entertaining. It's entertaining.
Right. It's entertaining. Right.
Yes.
Yes. So, James, thank you for indulging me in
Of
this little
course.
pivot into talking about cruise ships.
Of course.
So to wrap up this little section of the show, I'm going to say to you, remember that the world is more than your oyster. It's your stage.
Hey.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so for those listening to this on the Artist Pivot podcast, James, I'm going to wrap up right now. And so the one thing I do want to ask is, where can people find you out here on the interwebs?
Of course. Instagram is probably where I am most active. That is at James Roberts 96. That is where you will find me pretty much all the time. James Roberts the fourth, James Roberts, the letter I, letter V.com is up. Generally, you can get to all my stuff from there. It may not always be up to date, but you can get to what you need to get to from there.
Mm-hmm,
you can get to it
mm-hmm.
from there. Anything that's like active and that I'm trying to promote something to it will be there.
Okay.
And YouTube, of course. That is James Roberts IV, James Roberts the fourth. Just type that in, you'll find me. YouTube, Instagram, and the website if there's just general stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. I will put all of that in the show notes, y'all, so you can click on it. So don't worry. You don't have to remember it. It's in the show notes. And then, James, I must say to you that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for coming on again.
Of course.
This podcast is produced by Ayana Major Bay. Editor is Kieran Niement. Theme song lyrics written by Ayana Major Bay and Melissa Victor, with performance by Ayana Major Bay. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Part of the Boundless Audio Podcast Network.